When is a fashion internship needed? Anytime. Now, there are different reasons why people embark on fashion internship. And I think I should clarify that. It's possible that you're embarking on a fashion internship as a professional or an aspiring professional. Now, as a professional, it means that you have enough transferable skills to offer a business, but your fashion knowledge or your hands-on experience in the fashion space is non-existent. Now, as an aspiring professional, well, it means you don't have any skill, or you have technical skills as mentioned in the previous video. You know how to illustrate, you know how to design, you know how to sketch, or you are just very creative. Now, that is also something relevant, but is it enough to help a business make a sale? I hope these two illustrations has helped you see that there are different reasons or there are different times in your journey that you can actually intern. An internship can happen multiple times across your entire career journey. Now, if you are an undergraduate, meaning that you are probably still in higher institution or in a fashion school, it is actually required in most institutions for you to embark on fashion internships. Now, if you are someone currently seeking to venture into the fashion industry and you don't know how to start, this is what I always say. Fashion internship is like your lowest hanging fruit. You grab it and eat it because it is easy for you to find. There are always a lot of opportunities out there and you can start with an internship. Now, if you are now completing your fashion education or you've completed your fashion education, it is actually paramount for you to do an internship. Now, fashion schools are usually where you learn maybe a few practicals, but they are very theoretical. Now, apart from your assignments and group works and assessments, you have not necessarily found yourself in a situation where you are sweating over a customer's product. I like to use that illustration. So you going on to explore internship opportunities after your fashion education will solidify all that you've learned in fashion school. It would also help you see how to handle real life situations. For example, you find yourself making an error on a garment that belongs to a client. How do you handle this kind of situation? How do you handle production delays? How do you handle difficult customers? How do you handle procuring or trying to procure fabrics that are no longer in the market? How do you handle such situations? You cannot literally learn that in a classroom. It requires hands-on experiences. Now, another reason why people embark on fashion internships is because they are exploring intra-industry career switch. Let me use myself for an example. When I started in the fashion space, I did have fashion experiences. I knew how to sew and cut, but I knew I wanted to intern. So I started with a brand. I learned the rudiments of production. Then I moved on to work with another brand as their assistant business development personnel. What this implies is that I was no longer just working with production team. I now had the opportunity to interface with the CEO, who is the creative director, to come up with collections, source fabrics, and also work the numbers on each of the items, meaning that we determine the cost price and the selling price, as well as tell our customers about the new products that we have. The experience I had interning in the production space was very useful because I knew how to navigate the difficulties that tailors can bring your way. And I hope this illustration has been helpful. Now, me switching from the entirety of what it means to run fashion business in terms of a clothing line to consulting, which is what I'm doing now, is another complete transition. However, I'm still in the fashion space. So if you are watching this video and you're particularly interested in leaving any kind of career pathway in a technical space and you're exploring the non-technical, I would advise that you embark on an internship. Now, finally, the group of people that also need an internship are those that are switching from a different industry to the fashion industry. So if you're moving from the food industry or from the hospitality industry and you want to come into the fashion industry, you will still need some form of internship to get accustomed to how the industry works, the who's in the industry, the whys, the whats, the ways of the industry. At this point, I'm sure you now see that fashion internships can actually happen at any time. Now, it's very much dependent on you. What is your when? You're the one to determine it. Another question that we should address in this lesson will be how long fashion internships are for. Now, I'm just going to build up on what I've said about when to intern, right? Just like I said, the duration is very dependent on you and the company you're interning with. Now, with you as a talent, you can actually rely on your school's duration if you're a student. If you're required to intern for 3 months, that's the duration already. However, if you are a fashion graduate, you have the plethora of time to choose how long you want to intern for. However, it is also dependent on what fashion companies or fashion organizations have to offer. Most fashion organizations offer 6 months at the least for you to intern. I think I've also heard of 3-month internships, but how effective would a 3-month internship be for you to build up on skills? So 3 months at the least, which is often rare when fashion companies are organizing their internship duration. But 6 months is very, very common. So you can actually intern for 6 months, 9 months, a year, or a year and a half. I know that sounds like a very long time, but it actually depends on your career trajectory in the fashion space. Having discussed the when and the how, let us move on to the next lesson.